What about you? You're all very welcome. And a special shout out to my newest Patreon friend, Betty. Thank you, Betty. Thank you for joining our little group. And if you'd fancy helping support this nonsense, then just follow the link above. And for £5 a month, you can throw your bit in and get bits of other stuff that other people don't get. Now, I'd only posted a short history, a sort of explanation of Papal Conclave last Thursday. And I'd confidently predicted in that I predicted that it was going to be a long conclave, as there was a bit of a schism within the church and they'd find it hard to come up with a compromise candidate. When, on coming downstairs from my dinner, there I saw it in the news. There was white smoke coming from the Sistine Chapel roof, indicating that the world had a new pope. Only proving beyond doubt that I'll never be a papal pundit. But I wasn't alone in being surprised, right, at how quick they came to a candidate, and indeed who the candidate was. Because the news channels started intimating that it could be an American. An American had taken the seat of St. Peter. And you see, as it drew out, I was sitting watching the news, and there was a bit of a gap between the time of the announcement of the smoke going up and the bells and the Pope actually coming out. It must have been about an hour. And as that began to sort of drag out, I was starting to worry. I began to worry maybe when Donald Trump had posted this image of himself on his official presidential page, that he hadn't been joking. Thankfully, when the big red velvet curtains opened on the balcony at St. Peter's, it wasn't Donald, but 69-year-old Chicago-born Cardinal Robert Prevost, who walked out wearing the papal vestments, taking the name Pope Leo XIV. Now, the fact he didn't follow the example of Pope Francis, who'd forgone those traditional papal vestments for a simple white cassock, well, that right away indicated that he was reaching out to the more conservative branch of the church. Because during the pontificate of Francis, the church had been split between reformers, with Frankie, and those who wanted to return to the more traditional doctrinal values as preached by Pope Benedict. Indeed, there's every possibility that Pope Leo was the compromise candidate between the two camps within the church. Now, how successful he'll be in bringing those two factions together, we'll have to wait and see. But during his opening address, he did stress the need to build bridges. And indeed, while Trump may not have been able to do a deal with the Vatican and get the papacy, he bathed in the reflected glory that for the first time in history, the Catholic Church had an American Pope. I was half waiting for Donald to go full Donald. You know what I mean? Into his usual nonsense. You know, Donald started to go, do you think this would have happened if Biden had been president? No, this was me. Me. The reason they've chosen American is because I'm making American great again. Even the Catholic Church sees America as great, and they're going to have to deal with me. The question is, will new Pope Leo be able to deal with Donald to ensure that no tariffs are imposed on the Vatican? Or will American Catholics be paying more for holy water and rosary beads? Now within, of course, naturally being here, within minutes of the election of Pope Leo, right, local wags online had changed the colour of the white smoke coming out the Sistine Chapel chimney to 1, this, and 2, this, raising that eternal question again. Is the Pope a Catholic? Statues were in the news this week, and I've done a bit about statues in the past. I'll stick that bit of material at the end of this for my Patreon viewers. You can see that bit of material I did about statues way gone. Bye. Now, the one constant with statues is they can lead to trouble, as has been proved in Dublin with the famous statue of Molly Malone. Molly Malone in Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty. I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone, as she wheeled her wheelbarrow through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels alive, alive, oh. That's classic, it's a classic. Now, the truth, of course, is we don't know whether Molly was a real person, but she is a mythical figure now. She sort of embodied the Dublin working class, and so a statue was put up to memorialise her in the centre of the city. And not long after that, in the 80s, an urban myth arose that if you touched the breasts of the Molly, you got good luck. So many hands have rubbed the famous breasts, indeed so much so that they now shine brightly. So Dublin Council, along with the daughter of the sculptor who made the thing, they've decided that this behaviour is not on. It's not on to be having a fondle of Molly's, you know what I mean. And they argue that it's damaging the statue. So would you believe it? Only they have employed bodyguards, minders, to stand in front of the statue and tell tourists, no, you're not allowed to have a grope. You're not allowed to have a grope. No, that's not on. Not on. I would argue that the fact that people are interacting with the statue in this way is not only positive, it's something that should be accepted and applauded. There's nothing new in this behaviour, by the way. For decades, MPs in the House of Commons traditionally would rub the foot of a statue of Winston Churchill going into the chamber for luck. Right? And chapels and churches around the world have bronze statues where the feet have been worn away by pilgrims who've touched them for blessings. Indeed, in Glasgow, it became traditional to put a traffic cone on the head of a statue of Duke of Wellington. I've seen it myself many times when I've been over there. Now, that became so common that the council gave up trying to take the things off. You know, it became part of the culture and part of that statue. Now, closer to home, statues have always been contentious and continue to be so. This week with the unveiling of a statue to hunger striker Bobby Sands, splitting opinion right down the middle. My first experience of such contentiousness about statues, well, that dates back to March 1970, when, as a 9-year-old child, I was a pupil at Pym Street Primary School on the Antrim Road. Now, on the morning in question, there was great excitement in our class as my fellow pupils started arriving in with what looked like big lumps of metal in their school bags. It turned out that those big bits of metal were in fact fingers from a statue which had until the night before stood at Carlisle Circus roundabout. It had been removed from its plinth by a large explosive device which blew it into pieces, some of which my schoolmates had picked up on their way to school. The dethroned statue had been to a character called William Hanna. I think it's William Hanna. He's a Presbyterian minister anyway, better known as Roaring Hanna. He was famous for his incendiary anti-Catholic rhetoric, and his sermons in 1890s sometimes led to sectarian riots. Indeed, for many people, he was a precursor for Ian Paisley. Now, where Hannah once stood, right, now, there now stands a modern abomination, supposedly which resembles ship sails, but stands forlorn and ignored by the thousands of cars and people which pass it daily. Statues which the public continue to interact with, even as being rubbed suggestively or having cones put in their heads, indicates that they're relevant and they're alive. And if I was an artist, I'd love that. Though I admit, I would draw the line at putting bombs underneath them. You understand? That I would draw the line at that there. And what's a good statue and what's a bad statue, personally, leave them alone. I'm sorry, but I do not believe in this thing about turning statues down. I think it's very subjective. Do you understand? Because today's heroes are tomorrow's villains, and today's villains can very well be tomorrow's heroes. There is only one arbiter, and that is time. Leave it to time to decide. It's not up to our subjective views today. I can imagine. Can you imagine about a few thousand years ago, some Egyptian walking up and looking at the pyramids and going, I never liked them. Same pharaohs, I never liked them bastards. Slave owners they were. Slave owners! Let's tear that down. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Prime Minister Kier Starmer did his very best to polish the turd, which is his special deal with the Trump administration during the week. And this new economic arrangement, the tariffs imposed on the UK will stay at 10%, the same rate as most other countries have, but with further reductions and removal on a few products such as cars, steel and aluminium. Now, when the video appeared of Trump in the Oval Office talking to Starmer over the phone, and Trump said, "Take it away, Prime Minister." Well, that just showed you just knew with that phrase who the daddy was, didn't you? You knew who the daddy was. You knew who was in charge. The special relationship. Forget about it. Forget it. Donald's king, and Starmer's just a peasant. We're all peasants now to Donald. The announcement by the Israeli security cabinet that its intention now is to capture Gaza, and in doing so, drive Palestinians out of their country. passed almost unnoticed during the week. That the US and UK governments hardly reacted to this declaration of ethnic cleansing proves the IDF now have a green light from both those nations to do whatever they want. And that's what they've been doing over the last year. Shooting medics, shooting journalists, shooting children, imposing starvation as a form of warfare. It's all just... There was one small speck of light in this darkness, and that came from Dr Michale Ryan, the executive director of the World Health Organization. I first came across him during COVID, when he basically spoke out against the COVID deniers and was a voice of sanity during all that madness. Well, he basically spoke out again this week, this time against what is happening to the Palestinian people, especially the children of Palestine. This is what he said.
We are breaking the bodies and the minds of the children of Gaza. We are starving the children of Gaza, because if we don't do something about it, we are complicit in what is happening before our very eyes. We are complicit. We are causing this. You, us, and everyone who does nothing about it. It's horrific. And the children of Gaza should not have to pay the price, as all children have done in the past, for the sins of anyone around them. This just has to stop. Any right-thinking human being will stand up and say this just must stop. And as a doctor, as a physician, as someone watching, more than 1,000 children without limbs, thousands of children with spinal cord injuries and severe head injuries from which they'll never recover, thousands and thousands of children with severe psychological distress that they may never recover from. We are watching this unfold before our very eyes, and we're not doing anything about it. And as a physician, I'm angry. I'm angry with myself that I'm not doing enough. I'm angry with everyone here. I'm angry with you. I'm angry with the world. This should not be happening. It cannot continue. We have to stop it. I'm glad someone asked the question, but this is an abomination. It's an abomination. We have to ask ourselves the question, how much blood is enough to satisfy whatever the political objectives are of any regime.
His message is both simple and profound. To remain silent is to be complicit. And while a wee Paddy talking in a room to a camera doesn't really make a hill of beans, everybody's got their part to play. And everybody has a responsibility to say, this is wrong. This is wrong. And this must be denounced.
You'll do nothing. You hear me? You'll do nothing.